Welcome. I'm Marlene, and I run the Refined Cook, which are actually cooking class parties out of Greater Boston, specifically Dedham. And unfortunately, as the whole world is in the same place, we've had to suspend our normal stuff, our normal cooking classes. But our mission at the Refined Cook is to promote a slow and sustainable lifestyle by teaching healthy and gourmet cooking, which is something I'm going to talk about more later. So Let's Cook is basically interactive online classes that we are offering as a public service while we're sheltering in place. And it's kind of nice. I mean, we were hoping people would slow down, but we didn't expect that it would come down to a screeching halt. And but there are some positives because people are getting back into cooking, and there's a lot of stuff that's really amazing with that as a lifestyle because you're taking control of your health and also the health of your environment. So today so our menu today is actually Filipino. I'm from the Philippines, and we have a few people who I think are, aside from Jella, I think I have another friend who's joining who's also from the Philippines, which is kind of cool because they'll probably be familiar with this. So we are going to be making two dishes. One is a squash ginger and coconut curry, which we call kalabasa. Kalabasa is squash. Kalabasa in gata or sagata. And the other one is spring rolls, which we also call lumpia. I think it's also a Chinese word. As with the classes for Let's Cook, we are trying to incorporate leftovers. We are using available ingredients and incorporating leftovers whenever we can because, most of us don't like to eat the same old thing day after day. And so, we want to look for ways to repurpose them. And in fact, I've coined the term, I will talk more about this later, but I've coined the term beaux, which means to repurpose leftovers in beautiful ways. Okay, so I will talk about that, but before that, I also see a few more familiar faces. So welcome. I wanted to check in who is going to be cooking with me today, just so I have an idea. I see Sana, Lenny, Jella. Who else? Did I miss someone else cooking? Sandy, I see Sandy. Are you cooking too? Yeah. Are you cooking both dishes today?
Yes.
Ooh, cool, Kevin. Yeah, okay. Excellent.
I'm ready to go.
Yes. So what I was gonna say also was, just a few things. You saw it when you signed up for this, and you will also get an email afterwards. But we are trying to raise funds for Feeding America. If at all anyone of you is in a position to do so, it's hard for everyone right now. But if you are, we would appreciate if you can donate to the link that we send you, which is our page for Feeding America, because there's unfortunately too many people who are going hungry these days. Also, I know, okay, protocol. So we are also Facebook live streaming, and I just want to mention to those who are watching that way, and also for everyone else, I don't see chats. So for everyone in this class, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask questions as you go along. This is interactive. I love questions. It's like it's dead space here if I'm the only one talking. So I love it when you guys just chime in. If you have information to share, that's totally great, okay? So that's it, we are starting. I'm going to show you first the ingredients for today. So for our squash in coconut milk, here is my butternut squash. This is organic. I posted a video on how to peel this, should anyone be a little bit unnerved, as I used to be, with slicing squashes that have the really hard skin, because it's easy for the knife to split the knife to slip, because the skin is hard. So I posted a video on Facebook on how to do that. So the ingredients for the squash butternut squash curry is just this: ginger, onion. Now, normally I would use a yellow onion because red sometimes bleeds and then it makes it pink. But my yellow onions all sprouted, so I ended up just planting them. So we're using that. The taste is going to be amazing anyway. And then for the spring rolls, so here are the spring roll wrappers. I hope you guys didn't have a hard time finding it. And we will discuss more other kinds of spring wrappers because that's not the only kind. What we're going to do for the filling, or at least on my end, I like to use carrots because carrots they add crunch, and also nuts. Okay, so those are the two things that will add crunch. And then fillers, I have mushrooms. I'm going to use leftover broccoli. This was blanched. We tend to blanch a lot of stuff and then we can make it into all sorts of things. So I'm going to use some of that. And then this did not exist Friday. And now I have leftover pork belly. I have actually I've never put meat in my filling. I always do vegetarian, but today I am going to put meat. And just so you know, the typical filling for spring rolls, it's usually either a ground meat with shrimp, or sometimes the heart of bananas, but it really can be anything you want. Now I have behind me garnishes. So let's see if we can see this. I have organic pansies. And that's because I aside from being beautiful, they are edible. So I love dressing up plates whenever possible. And you should too, because why not? It's spring and also summer. We're gonna get lots of flowers. I have cilantro here, and okay, this is the cooking oil. Let's see if I can see. I'm gonna use, this is old cooking oil. I used it to fry so many other things, and we will talk more about that, because when you fry, you know, sometimes you use up more oil than you need, and you don't need to toss that. So I'm just gonna use that, but that's avocado oil. That's this one, which I've been reusing several times. For the sauces, oh, I forgot to mention fish sauce. This is gonna be for the squash curry. And the sauce of the lumpia or spring rolls will be just soy sauce, or this is Japanese soy sauce, which is tamari with lime or lemon if you have. Either or will work. And I decided to add, optional of course, but why not, garlic and Thai red chili pepper, which is, well, it has a Scoville of between 125 and 200,000. So this is like 15 times hotter than jalapenos. But I like hot. I like heat. Okay, so that's that. And we're gonna start with the squash. So we are gonna peel the ginger first, sorry, and also peel the onions and then slice the squash. I'm gonna just change my camera position. Okay, so that we have the chopping thing. Okay, so for the amount of squash that I have, I am going to use a whole onion, and I'm just eyeballing it, but maybe about 1.5 inches. This all, of course, this depends on how gingery you like it, but I think about like this would be good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice, peel. I might get more of that. Slice, peel, and then crush it. So you can peel this using a knife or a peeler, but oftentimes I like using a spoon, because the spoon, oh, look at this. I actually did a great job, and I peeled already some of them before. Oh, okay, so you can just do this, and you don't get worried that you're gonna like accidentally scrape your finger that's in the way. So the spoon is kind of helpful. And any little bits that you can't get, you can just slice off. But it seems to work out. And then I forgot to mention the gadgets, of course. I'm going to show it to you. But for this, for the squash, you just need, I'm going to show you, backtracking. But you're going to need something large, like this is a semi-wok. It's not quite a wok, almost a wok. Anything that will contain the sauce, which I just remembered, I forgot my coconut milk. But anyway, so you need that. And for frying, I did not specify a size, but because I do not like to use too much oil, I tend to fry in batches and use something like this, which is a smaller skillet, or actually it's a saucepan. It's a small one, so I can fry about 3 at a time, and then I will put oil enough for about, let's say that's about 1 centimeter. Because if you had a really big saucepan, you're going to be using so much oil. So in case you already brought out a large one, if you do have a smaller one that's also deep, so that it contains the oil, remember the oil will be splattering, make a change, because you don't want to use so much oil, or else you'll end up with jars and jars of used oil. Okay, so this is the coconut milk I'm using. I mentioned in my menu, this is my favorite brand. And this happens to be organic, and I try to get organic when I can, but even the non-organic version of the Aroide coconut milk is pretty amazing, and I'll show you why. So we talk a lot about ingredients in my class because I'm very particular about health. So, it's hard to read, but the ingredients, it's only organic coconut extract, 80%, and water. You don't have anything else, no guar, no carrageenan, no sugar, no anything. And as much as possible, we try to use ingredients that are the most minimally processed. And don't forget to shake, just so you get, we're gonna use the whole can, but shake it just so you get everything dispersed. All right, that's that. Back to the ginger. All right, I'm just gonna crush this. I'm using a pestle and mortar. Well, actually, you know what? We'll make life a little bit easier for the pestle and mortar and slice this a little bit, see? Then that makes it easier to crush. Now, in general, it's about surface area. When you are able to expose as much of this is an aromatic, as much of the ginger, that means you're getting a lot of oils out. So it's the same thing. If you also mince this or grate it, you're going to be maximizing all those juices. If you left it as just one big chunk, you're not going to be getting as much ginger. So of course, you have to think about how this plays with your flavors. If you want the ginger to be intense, if you don't want people to be fishing out ginger pieces, then you might want a microplane. So there are many, many options on how to treat ginger. But in this case, this is a really simple home cooking sort of dish. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Just crush it a little bit further, and that's ready to go. Okay. Now, if you don't have a pestle and mortar, just use the flat blade of your knife. You know, I think I'm going to add one more little piece because I do like ginger, and I am going to just, actually, I'll cheat and just use the knife to slice that. Then we will go for the coconut milk, the onion, sorry, the onion. Okay, I'm just going to crush that too. And ginger, you might know, like turmeric, is a really great anti-inflammatory. So really super healthy for you. Okay, onion, red onion. Now, when we're talking about slicing, knives, anything that's sharp, I like always talking about this, you know, because there are always people, I always find that, you know, it's a little bit scary, their knife techniques. Now, onions roll around, not stable. First thing you want to do is create stability when you're dealing with something sharp like a knife. And how you do that is you first remove the poles, so both ends like this, and make sure you're using your knuckles to guard. So you hold your knife solidly, use your knuckles as a guide. Don't have your splayed fingers like this. So just this way, and it's still slippery because this is not yet stable. That's what we're trying to build, stability. So just be careful when you slice it. And of course, it really helps when you have a sharp knife, because you are letting your knife do the work rather than forcing it with your body, which is actually more dangerous, because that's when you can have accidents. So here, the other pole, then that's a little bit more stable now, right? See, here we go, slice down the middle, peel. All we're gonna do is peel this, slice it after the peeling, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It's not going to be too thin. I'll show you the size as soon as I get this little film out. By the way, I also saw my other student, Melissa. Welcome, Melissa. See, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was discussing what we're going to do about the onions. Oh, I also wanted to mention, okay, so since I always like to talk about the properties of our food. Last week, I mentioned, someone had commented, you know, because you know how most of our nutrients, nutrients of a vegetable or a fruit, we are able to access when they're at their freshest or when they're raw. So in other words, the more you cook them, usually the more you lose the nutrients. Well, there are exceptions, and tomato was the one I mentioned last week as an exception, but onions are also an exception. So the phytonutrient for onions is quercetin, and believe it or not, the more you cook it, except for boiling, because boiling leaches the nutrients, but for any other kind of cooking with onions, you're releasing the quercetin, which is an antibacterial, antiviral, all sorts of things. I think cancer too, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is very good for you. This is related to the garlic. So you have allicin as well as the quercetin. So there's lots of stuff that's good going on. And the more pungent an onion is, the healthier it is. So red tends to be more pungent than the yellow. So this has more of the quercetin. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I don't have to get fancy. What we're gonna do is we're gonna heat up my semi-wok, or whatever you're using in your end, Dutch oven or skillet. I'm just gonna change the view. I'm gonna use a neutral cooking oil. I'm gonna use avocado for this, but you can also use coconut oil, which, because we're using coconut milk, it's a perfect flavoring, and coconut oil is really healthy too and can do high heat. So we're gonna start off with medium-high, and then just enough oil to coat. Okay, so that's about maybe 2 tablespoons. You see, I'm just like doing this around, boom, just coating. And you know what? I am going to lower it because, you know, I forgot. It's gonna be fast, but I forgot we still have the squash. So let me pause that and I'm gonna get a container for my. So the squash, all we're gonna do is we're gonna cube it. So I'm gonna go back to my my camera. Jeez, This is like the main thing, and I almost forgot it. Okay, so this, we're only gonna cube it. Okay, so about an inch is probably, let's see. Of course, the smaller you cook it, the faster it will, the smaller you chop it or slice it, the faster it will cook. So yeah, about an inch will be good. Because when this cooks down, you know, it becomes softer and it becomes a little, if it's too small, it will become mushy. So I think an inch is good. All right, we'll just do that. So, yeah, squash is actually, has always been one of my favorites. Someone asking a question? Go on. Maybe not. Okay, so. After this half, I'm gonna turn back my heat on the stove. Oh, I'm hearing something, but I'm not sure if. Okay, my heat is back on. Now that half of it is in. All right, I'm gonna chop or slice the rest of this after I put the onions in. So I'm gonna go back to the stove top, and here we go. You can put the onions and ginger in together. And so there's the onions. Here's the ginger. Now, add a dash of salt. The salt just helps to draw out the moisture. And while that's sauteing, I can slice the rest of my squash. So all we're gonna do with this is just cook it enough so that it's a little bit translucent. So we're not cooking it through, just translucent. What that does is you're releasing basically the oils, all the beautiful oils, when you are sauteing it this way. Rather than you don't do that when you actually boil it. So it's very different when you're using fat. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm gonna slice up the rest of my squash.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is leeks an okay substitute for onions?
Yes, totally. Leeks, anything in the allium family, leeks, shallots, chives are a little bit, they're too small, chives and scallions, but leeks are perfect. Okay. And by the way, so if you're using leeks, the white part of the leeks are what serve as the equivalent of the onion in terms of pungency, but your health benefits are actually in the green parts. So if you're interested, because that's actually a really nice thing, if you can cook it down, you can add that towards the end. Well, actually, sorry, no, not towards the end. Even in the beginning, you can saute that because it's fibrous. And if it's fibrous, the longer you cook it, the more you're able to soften it. So yes, totally works out.
So are we going to puree this then?
No, we're not pureeing this. This is, in fact, no, we're not actually pureeing at all. This is as is. So that's why if you decide to put the green part of the leeks, you just want to make sure you cook it through to make sure it's soft enough, and it will actually provide a great accent. If we were pureeing, you wouldn't even need to do that because it would just like break it down. Hope I answered that question. Okay.
I have another question because I don't have kielbasa.
Yeah.
I have sweet potato.
You could. It has a very similar flavor profile. So yeah, it should work. It should work.
All right.
Yeah. Cube it too, because they have the same kind of texture, meaning they will cook equally, you know, the same time. I've never cooked with sweet potato for this dish. So That's a really good substitution. So what we're doing is the most basic of this dish, because there are iterations. When I'm lazy, this is actually how I do it usually. But you know, sometimes you want to kind of change it up, and you can add shrimp or green beans. So those are the other iterations of this dish that I've done, which is kind of cool. So I have to also, if you haven't yet, open your can of milk, because that's going to be coming up really soon. I am going to open up mine right now. Don't forget to shake your can. And I'll show you what my coconut milk looks like once I open the can, because it's very different from other brands. All right, you know what? That's not bad. We can add the squash already at this point. All right, I'm adding all of my squash. Well, soon. Looking if I slice them all. Okay. All right, now the sauce. Let me just show you. I'm not sure if it'll come out clearly here, but you can. We're not really frying the squash. I just happened to put it in already, but look at how solidified that is. This is amazing for desserts too, this particular coconut milk, but it's so creamy. Okay, so here we go. Let that be. And then, you know how there's always a little bit of, you know, coconut milk in? I don't like to waste. So what I'm gonna do is put a little bit of water in the can, shake it around so I can get the last itty bitty bit of that. There we go. Spread it around. Lower the heat. Okay. And then we will just leave that alone to brace. Basically, that's what's happening. We're bracing this to help if you know, we have a time constraint because this is a class. So you don't have to, but what I'll do is I am going to cover this, because if I put the lid, that means it's going to steam up here, which means it's going to cook from above as well. So it just hastens it. Okay, so, but oftentimes I just leave it alone. Okay, so I'm going to get a lid. And of course, when you have a lid, you are also preventing the evaporation of the liquid. So those are the things that you want to consider. When you leave it open, you're going to reduce the liquid. It's going to be a bit thicker versus a little bit more watery. So then, you know, you can compensate for that. We can talk about that later depending on what happens to this. So I'm just going to move this to the side. I'm going to cover that. And let's get ready for our spring rolls. Okay, I want to check in. Are you guys pretty much on the same page as me right now? Because I
Not quite, but it's early in California. I can get behind.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. So while the squash is just gonna be like, boom. See, it's one of those things you leave alone. You can do other things. And in this case, we're gonna do the spring rolls. So I have my little mini food processor here. This is great for the carrots. Actually, let's see. I'm gonna use this for the carrots, the nuts, and that's it. I'm gonna hand slice the others. And the reason why I wanna use this is because I wanna get the carrots to be really fine, and I'll show you. So we will also talk about some of these stuff. Now, there is somehow an order. I've never really seen the rule for this, but I have found from experience that you cannot just process everything all at once. It's like you have to match the kind of fibrousness of the ingredients you put together, or else, like if you put something mushy all the way with this, the mushy parts might not be ground up equally. It's kind of weird, but I've seen that they get stuck in the blade. So all I'm gonna do, this is an organic carrot, so I'm using the skin. Okay, so this is one of those things, another exception, that when you cook carrots, it actually releases more of the beta carotene. It's most vegetables, the more you cook, you lose it. This one, it's better, except that we're not really cooking the filling. So if you notice, when I said we're putting leftovers, these are, with exception of the carrot and the mushrooms, the leftover pork belly is already cooked, and so is the asparagus. So make sure if you're putting raw stuff that they are stuff that you can eat raw. Like, you don't want to put ground raw beef or raw pork in this spring roll, because if it doesn't cook through, then you're setting up yourself for some pathogens. So you can do that in some spring rolls when they're really small. Then you're able to cook it through. But we're doing big spring rolls, so you're not going to get enough heat to cook through. So you make sure that it's already cooked. Okay, you're filling. So all I'm going to do with this, I'm going to chop the tip off, and also whatever racky bits. Just gonna slice it this big, because I'm gonna be rough chopping this. And we'll start with this. I'm gonna shift the camera to the cutting board again. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna remove this. And how many carrots, how many broccolis, how many mushrooms, all depends on you. Okay, this is like, it's what you want to fill your spring roll with. That's why it's nice, because there's no real right or wrong. It's what you like. Sometimes I put other vegetables, and then it just so happens that carrots it's a nice crunch. That's why I like it. So I'm putting that much. I will probably just separate the walnuts. I think I might as well get this happening first. And we're gonna pulse, okay? Because you don't wanna puree this or make it too fine, because as I said, I am looking for a little bit of a crunch. So just one more. So the only reason behind this also is, if you have a big chunk, let's say like this, if you bite into a spring roll and there's something like this it's not exactly pleasant. That's why you want it to sort of. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm gonna add your choice of nuts, and of course, optional also, I'm using walnuts. Again, because it's nice to have the crunch. And you know what? I will experiment. I'll just put it in. Usually I do it separately. But living large, it's always fun to experiment. People are nervous about that, but that's how you actually learn. And usually it's not disastrous, the results. Well, sometimes they are, but usually they're not, and you can learn from it. See? Look at that. So quick, and it's already done. So that's obviously all up to you. Now, if you were using salted nuts, just be aware that, of course, that's already going to be seasoning your lumpia or your spring roll. You know what? I'll add more nuts. We love nuts in the household, so it's just my husband and myself, but we are kind of crazy about nuts, and I put them in everything. They're also our snacks when we're binging, movie binging. So always just pulse, okay? All right, that's pretty much that. Now let's address the leftovers. Okay, so.
Oh, sorry, I had my back turned to my food processor. Besides the carrots and nuts, what did you grind up in the food processor?
I put the nuts in. These are all optional, but the nuts are, you know, both the nuts and the carrots are good for that little bit of a crunch.
And that's all you had in the food processor?
Yeah, so far. And then the next thing I'm going to do is actually the mushrooms, which the reason why that's separate is because mushrooms have a lot of water. And so these can be mushy if well, actually, you know what? My mistake. This is actually one of those things that you should be putting together with something hard because it sorts of grounds it. So I might put back some of my stuff just to get this going. So all I'm gonna do first, just to help it out, I'm just gonna remove the ratty ends because it's a little bit long in the tooth. So, you know, you don't toss away something like this. You just remove whatever bits don't work. Now, by the way, just on the squash, we are simmering, okay? So just make sure that, just check your fire. You don't want it to be on high. So simmering is just a low boil. Okay, just let's see for the one. So the mushrooms, you see, as a contrast, they're soft versus the carrots. So, you know, when you talk about cooking, what makes cooking amazing, it's layering of flavors, layering of textures. So, you know, you don't want one-dimensional tasting food that is just sweet or it's just sour. So for example, in Thai cooking, you know, when you have the sour elements, your sour is coming from many things. It can come from your kaffir lime leaf, it comes from your limes, it can come from a bit of the lemongrass. It's coming from many areas, and so it just builds this complex flavor profile. Same with textures, you know. You don't want something just mushy. You want like mushy that's maybe a hint of crisp somewhere, and then it's like, whoa, what was that? You know, it's like a little gift. Okay, let's see. I'm just pulsing a little bit. I know I said I was going to add other things. It's holding up. So it's fine. You can just use this on its own. But sometimes I use hard vegetables as an anchor when I have soft stuff that I am grounding up. It's not quite pureeing or mincing. I actually do this by hand, right? But if you have the toys, why not use it? It's kind of fun. Okay, so I am just going to add that to this. So I see I'm feeling this. It's hard to see, but this has a lot of moisture. Okay, because mushrooms that way. So that's why you don't want something really moist, you know, or completely moist. You need to balance it with something that's not as moist, like the carrots are perfect. Okay, and nuts, of course. So like if you were thinking like, oh my God, it's too moist, a really quick fix, add nuts. Okay, so I'm gonna add also a little bit of the broccoli, but this one I'm gonna do maybe just by hand. I'm not gonna put that much. I'm just gonna do maybe this much. Okay, let's get that out. Just rough chop. By the way, I've never actually I've never done leftovers with the spring rolls. So this is the first time, but I've been exploring all sorts of ways to what I call make beaux rests, which is to repurpose leftovers in beautiful ways. And it's something that, you know, in history, all cultures pretty much have a version of beaux rest. I did not invent the concept of beaux rest because the poor man's food, peasant's food, is basically utilizing leftovers because you want to stretch your food. But you know, it's I explained it in the history of leftovers a few classes ago, where somehow when people have become affluent, the idea of leftovers or eating leftovers was almost anathema, and it had this negative context. And so I wanted to invent a term which would, you know, get us away from the negativity of the word leftovers. You know, it sounds like it's secondhand. Okay, I think maybe just a little bit smaller on the broccoli. Oh yeah, I was talking about typically what you have in spring rolls, also in Asia. Noodles is another thing that people put in because these are extenders, you know. This is a cheap food. This is street food. So you don't have really expensive ingredients in. You have things that you cobble from whatever, you know, whatever didn't sell from the day before or your family didn't eat. Okay. Pretty much, it's going to be making a lot of filling. All right, and now a little bit of the pork belly, and then we are going to be wrapping. So this, you don't want to mince. You see, you don't want to put something like this in a food processor because it's going to be this mush weirdness, and that's what I mean by certain foods you can't use a food processor on. You have to hand chop. Yeah, that would just be a little bit of a mess. So I think part of it has to do because it's really fatty. So this is just, by the way, if you've never had pork belly, it's pretty amazing. My husband made this a few days ago, and it was a 12-pound slab. We're going to be freezing the rest, but it's pretty awesome. And all he did, as you know, what happens is, you know, when products want to showcase their you know, whatever it is they're promoting, they actually have the recipes on the package that are pretty amazing. So something like this is like your little nuggets of joy. So you know, that's a little bit too decadent. So of course we're gonna make it like maybe a centimeter big. This is all arbitrary, but this is just how I'm thinking of it. I just want the little bits of bacon, pork belly, you can put bacon too, to just pop in between all the other fillings.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What can you substitute with that?
Well, what do you have? Because actually, I normally don't even normally put this pork belly. It's just that I happen to have it, so I'm like, wow, why not?
So I don't eat pork. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, keep it vegetarian because this is the first time I'm actually using meat. I usually have it vegetarian. Yeah, totally. Just make sure you have enough of your vegetables. If you have other vegetables, as long as it's not saucy, that's totally fine. What, Alina, tell me what you have. I can be more specific if you can tell me what you're working with.
Well, I'm not cooking today because I decided I'm gonna watch right now and see how it goes.
Sure.
But yeah, but I'm just seeing that you're doing this, so that's
and normally I don't. So usually what I just put in carrots. Let's see, I'm looking at it. Carrots and mushrooms are usually, and nuts are usually what I put in. I'm trying to think if there's something else, and maybe sometimes cilantro or yeah, but not really. I don't usually put meat, so yes, that's totally fine. And let's see, I'm just eyeballing. Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. That's enough. We're gonna be ready to roll. Okay. All right. You know, I was also thinking, just because it's Asian originally, this spring roll, doesn't mean you have to keep it Asian, because can you imagine if you had cheese, like a Gruyere or something that melts? That's gonna be pretty amazing. And of course, if you're handling food, I didn't mention this in the beginning because I realize most people are really aware now that it's important to be washing hands. But of course, in between, you also have to wash your hands when you're handling meats, raw especially, right? Okay, I'm gonna change, well actually, I'm just removing this and putting something else there. All right, let's talk about our spring roll wrapper. You are gonna need a little ramekin of water to seal. Okay, so just regular water. So this particular wrapper, you need to dab some water to seal it. There are different kinds of wrapper. This is a wheat wrapper. Let's see, where's the ingredient? I can't even see the ingredient. It's somewhere, but yeah, it has, I can't see it. But anyway, the reason I mentioned that is because there are other kinds of wrappers, like if you see in Vietnamese cooking, it's this like see-through. Those are rice, that's rice wrapper, that's gluten-free. And that has a different style, like that's perfect actually for fresh spring rolls, but you can fry that too. This one, you need to cook, okay, because you don't want the raw taste. And yes, you can also bake this, but today we are gonna fry. So this is usually frozen. So you get this out of the freezer section, and before you work on it, you wanna just make sure you defrost it for about maybe 15 minutes. That's why I said, you know, remove it from the freezer 10 minutes before class. Okay, and I'm just gonna be making maybe 6 rolls today, and I'll show you how we do this. So I'm just setting up my area. And after the first roll, I will start my oil because it will take a little bit of time to heat the oil. So I'm gonna change cameras. So this is not anywhere near as delicate as phyllo, but you still have to be careful when you're peeling it because you can tear it, right? And they also dry out. So if you're not using the rest, like while you're working for one, you see what I'm saying? You can tear this if you're not careful, but it's not really hard. Just be a little bit ginger with it. Okay. And cover, because this will dry out. So if you're not working on it, cover it with a rag or a dishcloth, like just like this until you need the next piece. Okay, so let me fix this a little bit. All right. Okay, that gives us a better view. So I like to face it like a diamond. So the tip is on my side, right? And then we're gonna fill this like this. By the way, one of my favorite Filipino desserts is actually banana fritters, which is just, oh God, the easiest thing. It's just banana, a little bit of sugar, and this wrapper, fry it, boom, really, really nice. Okay, so the trick is you want to fill it, but not overfill it. And that's easier said than done. It's one of those things, oops, that will come with practice. So don't fret if you don't get it the first time. And so what you do is you just like do this, tuck it in there so it gets little stuff. Then tuck the sides in, and you want to just make sure it's angled so it's neat. Obviously, if it's not angled, it'll still work, but then you have this like lumpia that looks kind of messy. Okay, and then you can roll just that way. And before you finish, you see what I'm saying? When this, if it's not tucked in, you'll have too much flap here. So just make sure, and you can always adjust this way as you go along if you realize that, oops, it's kind of weird. And then before you roll it all the way, just dab your finger like this, and then roll through. And then boom, that's ready for frying. Okay, so
quick question.
yes.
Do you cook the filling, or the filling is all raw?
Okay, so this is what I was mentioning earlier. I tend to, because these are big spring rolls, you want to make sure that it's cooked already, which is why everything that's in here is either cooked, or if it's a raw vegetable, it's fine to eat raw, because you have to make sure if it was raw and you needed to cook it, you would have to be frying this for a really, really long time. So yeah, it has to be either cooked already or raw that you can eat, like the vegetables. If you wanted to use raw materials, you want to make sure your lumpias are really small, because if it's really small, then you'll be able to cook through. But in general, because this is the size that I use, make sure it's cooked. Okay. Yeah, you know, that's one of the things, the other wrapper that I was talking about, it's the rice wrapper. In Vietnam, they use raw pork. Pork and shrimp is usually the filling, and it's raw what they put in. But they have the spring rolls are like half the size of this. So then the whole thing cooks through. You can't take that chance when you're using a big spring roll, because, you know, raw meat is dangerous if you're not careful. So especially if you don't know what's coming from. So something like this can even be fatter. I'm gonna do one more. I did say I was gonna put the oil, but actually I'll do one more just to demo it again. This time I'll make it a little bit fatter. Now, don't worry if you think like, oh my God, did we season this or what? I mean, yes, you could. I have seasoning on my pork belly, so I'm not. But don't forget, we have a sauce. And the sauce is going to be pretty much a major part of your seasoning for here. If you didn't have a sauce, then you might want to season. Oh, and I was talking about, like, just because this is Asian doesn't mean you have to keep it Asian. The idea of the spring rolls might be, this particular spring roll is Asian, but all cultures have something similar. You know, you have you have phyllo stuff, you have French pastries that have meat filling. It's the same thing. So if you wanted to do a European filling and put like cheese and I don't know, haricot verts and something, why not, right? You don't have to be constrained by that. Then you have fusion. Okay, I'm gonna put my oil now that I have two, and I can keep making lumpias as the oil is heating. But it's a good time to check on your squash. In fact, I am gonna put my camera here just to see where it is. So for the squash, the only thing you're waiting for is cooking it so that when you pierce the squash with a fork, it's soft. That's all, okay? And then we're gonna season that, but this is really hard. The reason why I'm checking on it is because whatever is on top that's not hitting the liquid, it's not really getting cooked. Or, I mean, it is with the steam because I put a lid, but it's gonna take a lot longer. So I'm trying to submerge and I'll put it back. Okay. All right, oil.
Hey, Marlene, this is Anne.
Yes.
Just a quick question. So if
Yeah. Hi, Anne.
I made it, if the squash is cooked through, should we turn the heat off?
Yes. When it's cooked through, it's done. Is it cooked already?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's fast. And that's totally possible because if you did you slice your squash smaller than me?
Maybe, but I had cut it ahead of time and I had frozen it and unfroze it today.
Oh, okay.
I don't
So
know.
maybe, you know what? That was probably blanched, which means it was partially cooked. If it was frozen, yeah. So that's fine. So then you're gonna be just seasoning it. So that's fine. We'll wait. I'll wait until mine is done. I'm already heating my oil. I'm gonna get more. And while it's heating up, I'll just talk about. So I have a lot of these, like, you see, jars of used oil. That's because we have a deep fryer too. And if you're using a deep fryer, you're using so much oil. And it's like, what do you do with all that oil afterwards? Well, you don't waste it. You can just strain it and reuse it. The only exception is if you're frying seafood, that one will leave a taste. But other than that, you can pretty much reuse your oil. And I have pretty much enough. So that's heating up. And I think because you don't want to crowd, I always talk about how, when you are frying, whether it's deep frying, pan frying, whatever, it is really important not to overcrowd your food because food has moisture. And if it's too crowded, it will release all at once and you're going to be ending up steaming, which is a totally different process and it totally changes your flavors. So something like this pan, I will probably just put 3 at a time, which means while it's heating, I will still be making stuff. And I'm gonna, where's my?
So how much oil are we putting in the saucepan?
So basically, okay, you can really use a lot of oil if you wanted to. But because I'm trying to be economical with how we use oil, I just want to make sure that maybe it's about around a centimeter. Okay, so here's the trade-off. If you have it like deep frying, you can just like submerge the whole thing and boom, it's done in a few minutes. If you want to conserve your oil, you just use maybe about nearly about 3/4 of a centimeter, and then what happens is you're just going to be rolling this around. It's batch cooking. Okay, so you can do either works, but as I said, I don't want to have so much oil that I'm going to be swimming in it. So I'm just going to be batch cooking.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So, there are so many, rules like, oh, people do it this way, etc. But it's important to understand why certain things are done because there are many, many roads to heaven. No, I mean, there's just many ways to do stuff. So, okay, how do you know that your oil is hot enough? Okay, let's see. So, you can test it. And you can test it by putting something like I have a little bit of broccoli here and to see how it reacts. Like if it starts, you'll see it goes. That's good. You can do an eyeball thing. You can see sometimes it's you see a shimmer. It's hard to see when it's when the oil is deep. When you're pan frying and you have shallow oil, you see this sort of shimmer. and that tells you that it's really hot. So actually, if you have more oil than the shallow frying, the best test is just to put something in, and you'll see it go, it's a little sputter is basically what it is. Okay, now you also want to be careful. Oil and water don't mix, which means this is also the reason why I said you can put anything in as long as it's not saucy, because well, two things. One is this is going to get soggy, the skin, but the other thing is when you're frying, the thing will just like splatter back. So you also have to be careful about that. While that's heating up, I also want to talk about the colander. I mentioned it's an optional thing. I think I mentioned it, to put the colander, because when the spring rolls are fried, I'm gonna line this with paper towel, and I'm gonna put the spring rolls this way so that it continues draining the oil down. Okay, I will line this now. Of course, you don't have to do this. You can just have a plate that's lined with paper towel, and it would work out. But you can imagine that if it's just lying down, it's still gonna be a little bit oily on the one end. So here, once this is done, it'll be this way, and then it basically will drain the oil that way. Okay, so I'll leave this here for when I need it. Let's test the oil. I'm gonna change. Whoa, yes. Okay, and because you see that? Did you see that splutter? Yeah, that's good. So be careful, but it's ready to go. And when you add something into hot oil, you are basically cooling it down. So sometimes, not always, sometimes you might have to adjust the temperature, but my heat has been really high, so that's okay. You know what? Just realized that's gonna fry faster than my roll, so I better start rolling. Okay, so while that's working out, I am stuffing more rolls.
Marlene, if you did shredded cabbage, would you suggest just putting that in raw?
Hey, you know what? That's actually a good crunch, come to think of it, right? Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything, yeah, we can eat cabbage raw, go ahead. Because there are certain things like, for example, mushroom, really. Mushroom has a little bit of toxin if it's raw. But I figure a little bit of the heat here is also cooking it. So, but yeah, cabbage, go for it. You're gonna get the crunch. That's gonna be nice. That's a good idea, actually. Cabbage. I've never thought of cabbage in my spring rolls, but I can totally see it. Okay, I'm making sure that I get enough rolls done before all of those finish frying. Now, because we are shallow frying, sort of, you just want to make sure you turn it around. What you're looking for is a golden brown, because since it's not really cooked, you're not really cooking the insides necessarily. What you want to make sure is that the wrapper has a beautiful golden tinge. If you decided to bake this, because you could, I would recommend that you brush the skin with some oil, just because it also has a different effect on the skin. Okay, I have two that are finished. And so how are your rolls coming along? You guys frying already?
Mine don't want to roll up nicely.
Can you show? I'm going to remove my spotlight and.
Well, like this one you can see has a little, gap.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's just a practice thing. You overfilled it, I think. Sandy, can you show me again up close?
Well,
Because it looks like it's
I
fat.
have two. This one's fat and it has a little gap. This one is skinnier, but it's just kind of messy. I don't know.
I know what you did. Okay, you want to make sure just put it towards the center, the filling. So make sure that there's enough of the wrapper on the sides, because if you fill too much to the side, then it'll just like go out this way. So, and as I said, it's if you haven't wrapped before, it will take a few spring rolls, and then you'll get the hang of it. You'll know what's enough and what's too much. Okay. Try it again. You can also repeat that if you were not happy with it. Wait, let me check on my spring rolls. Ooh. Okay. Yes. Ooh. Okay, I'm lowering the heat because it looks like it's so hot, but I want to show you. You see how it's nice and golden brown already on one side? By the way, if you have kids, this is a really great way of sneaking vegetables in. They're gonna like it. Oh, Sandy, I'm gonna show you again one more time what how I'm wrapping this and what I'm talking about with regards to the space ratio. As soon as I see, right?
I think I didn't have my ingredients as chopped as finely as you also.
Oh, that could be. You see, this is why it's all a learning process, and that's fine. So next time you can do it. But you see, there's a lot of gap here because that just makes sure, I just make sure when you have a gap there, that when you fold it, nothing will spill through, see? So that's—
Oh yeah, your little triangles overlap each other. Mine are barely touching each other on the side.
Yeah, see? So try again. You have enough filling to do more?
Oh yes, I'm gonna make all 20 because I'm feeding 6 people.
All right, there you go. By the way, this is the sort of, if you have leftovers of this, you don't want to put this in the microwave because it's gonna make it soggy. You want to put this in the toaster oven, okay? If you have leftovers. Oops, wait. There we go. All right, looks like. Woo! All right, that's ready to be pulled out. Let me get my little thing. Do I have another? Okay. One out. Second. And third. So this is what I mean. You see, it's just laying, it's just upright so that it can still continue dripping down. Now put the second and the third. You know what? I have enough filling. I might make a little bit more. Why not? So guys, those who are making the squash, where are you now? Is your squash looking like it's pretty much done or not yet? Because I haven't checked mine, so may I get earlier? Yes.
How soft should the squash be? Like,
oh, just enough that your fork goes through. Is it already that soft, Jella?
Not yet, but I can get my fork through. So is that good enough?
So this becomes a tasting. Do you like your squash that way? Actually, Jella, hold on. You're from the Philippines. So have you ever made this in the house, or have you ever had this?
The spring rolls?
No, the gata, the kalabasa.
I've never done it myself, but I've eaten it, of course. I love anything with coconut. So
yeah, this is unbelievably easy, and that's why you can make it like in variations. But okay, so that's why the piercing thing. But do you like your squash just cooked, or you want it?
Yeah, I don't want it too soft.
Okay, so then if it's already fine with you, this is up to you. Go ahead, and that's cooked. So let's season already. we can season together. I'll just like get this in and we will.
So do I turn off the heat?
Just put it on simmer for now. Really,
Simmer,
like really low, because
Okay.
it's gonna be soon enough.
I've got another quick question.
Sure.
Okay, so for the squash with the gata, I'm
Yeah.
throwing in some prawns last minute, and I have some leftover uni. Do you think it would work, or is that just too weird?
Uni, I'm not sure. Shrimp, totally. Shrimp. I always actually that's one of my go-tos for the gata thing is if I want to dress it up because it's nice to have the pink against the yellow and then and also green beans. Those are the things that I like to add with the gata. Uni, maybe not because the flavor of uni might clash with the gata, and it's also mushy, the uni. So it's not right.
I thought maybe blenderize it with some gata, but I don't know. You're right. The flavor. I don't know if.
Yeah, I don't think so.
uni and coconut would
By the
work.
way, uni. Okay, it is really funny. I love uni, and uni is sea urchin. For those of you who are not into the Japanese sushi, but my first uni experience was with my father, and I loved it so much. I ate so much of it that I got so sick, and it took about, I don't know, 15 years before I got over that, and now I love it again. But yeah, I cannot exactly see how that flavor will, and texture also. I don't think it's going to work with the coconut fish. Okay, my second batch is ready to rumble too. And you know, the first is always the one that takes the longest because your heat, you know, it's taking time for the oil to be hot enough. If you were using a deep fryer, we're talking about between 350 and 360 degrees. Okay, so if you had a thermometer, that would be pretty much the ideal frying temperature. But yeah, so once you get going, it's pretty fast because the oil is already hot. You have momentum basically. So, all right, last batch. And then let's check on the squash, and then we'll make the sauce also for the lumpia. Okay, that's happening. Let's check on. All right, at this point, I'm gonna remove this already. Now, let's check on the squash. Ooh, okay, mine is done. So I want to show you pork test. Okay, just be careful. You see what I have? I have a liquid dish here, and then I have something frying, which I think I'm gonna move, because if you splatter by accident, like the liquid goes onto the oil, that could splatter back on you, and hot oil will burn you. Okay, this is the fork test. Let's see, I'm looking at the camera. Oops, let's use my right hand. Oh look, I have an errant chive. Huh. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but you see how my fork is just going through. That's perfect, okay? So now we're just seasoning it. Seasoning, man, this is super easy. This is seasoned to taste. I'm using really amazing, okay, fish sauce is one of the things I like talking about in my Asian classes because they're not all equal. I learned this, actually I'll talk about this a little bit. So when I was in Vietnam, I took a cooking class, and I'm from the Philippines, and we have fish. I even did a paper on fish sauce for my anthropological class in college. And I had never tasted the fish sauce that like what we had in that Vietnamese cooking class. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And it turns out that it's very specific. It's from Phu Quoc Island, which is in Vietnam. And it's particular to the water, that and the way they process it, that it's pretty amazing. But why this and before this became widely available, it's available now in Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, I think Wegmans. I used to be having, I used to get this only through Amazon. That's the only way I could get it special ordered. But why it's important to know this? If you look at the ingredients, you only have two. It's anchovy and salt. There's no water. This is pure fish. And how you know that is this number here, 40, and N, I don't know how you call this unit of measurement, but it's nitrogen. And this is the protein content. This is how it measures how concentrated the protein is. This is considered artisanal fish sauce. And it's the difference between complex fine wine and one that is just off the street, which is rough, which means you don't need sugar, you don't need all sorts of other ingredients to tame it. It's beautiful as is. If you look at the fish sauce that in normal grocery stores, you'll see that it has sugar. And that's because it's so rough that they have to use sugar to tame it down. Okay, so just something to think about.
Where do you get that?
So this one you can already get in Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, but I actually get mine from the Vietnamese markets because it used to be half the price. And the other thing was, so you can, I haven't seen it in the US, but you have up to 50, the unit of measurement that I've seen, 30, 40, and 50. But in the US, I've only seen 40. Okay, let me just double check on the frying because I'm talking to make sure. Okay, that's happening. Oh yeah, and as I say, we're seasoning. Season to taste. So basically, if you're not sure of how salty your fish sauce is, just try a little bit, mix it in. If it's too little, add more. And if it's enough, then that's it. Because you always want to start with a little when you're seasoning, because over seasoning is harder to correct than under seasoning. In fact, if you have to make a mistake, which is not really a mistake in my books about salt, under salt. Do not over salt. So many beautiful dishes are ruined by over salting, and it's so hard to correct that, short of like trying to dilute it with all sorts of other things. But if it's under salted, even if it's already served at the table, it's easy to correct. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to this. I know my fish sauce, so I have an idea, but I'm always gonna be tasting. Okay, so taste.
I have a question. I don't have fish sauce, but I have oyster sauce.
It will change the taste, but you could try it. It's totally different, the flavor. Oyster sauce has it's sweet, salty is the flavor profile of that, but, and of course the oyster flavor. So yes, you can try it, but I would suggest next time, if you do have fish sauce, try it so you can just taste the difference. But yes, it will work. And you know what? This is done. And as I said, if you wanted to add shrimp, green beans, snap peas for color, then it would be great. I'm going to garnish this with the cilantro. So that's going to be the nice green that will go on this. See, I'm going to taste one more time. Yeah, but it's salty and sweet. And then turn off the fire if you're done with that. And we will make the sauce for the spring roll, and then we're gonna plate. But I wanna check, is everyone done with their squash? I know Anna is.
Yep, I'm done with mine.
Okay. And I'm just finishing this last batch. And let's get rid of what, it's always good to organize as you go, because then you don't have this pile of like, oh my God, disaster area, and then you get really like not psyched to cook again because it's like so crazy. Oh, and if you have your spring wrappers out, wrap it back, put it back in the plastic wrap, and go put it in the freezer because you don't want it to dry out. Okay, so since I'm waiting for the spring roll, that's a good time to return my little spring wrappers. So everyone okay on the squash? Are you guys all, for those cooking the squash?
So we have ginger in it, the fish sauce, lemon or lime.
Oh wait, in the squash?
No, in the soup.
Oh no, the squash doesn't have lemon or lime. The squash is just ginger and onion, sauteed, and then squash, coconut milk, and fish sauce. That's it.
Okay.
It's
Well,
really
mine's gonna have lime tonight.
okay.
I'll tell
Hey,
you.
you know what? You just invented a new Asian dish. I can imagine that because it's not so much a Philippine cooking, but Vietnamese cooking. Sorry, not Vietnamese. Thai cooking has a lot of this sweet and limey combinations. I was talking about it, like pad thai, for example, or the chicken curry. So the lime, the citrusy thing, just brightens up things. So, again, this will become subjective taste, right? So it might not be traditional. It's okay. It's totally fine. If you like the flavor, go for it. Okay, I think pretty much. I like my square rolls golden brown, so that's why I'm giving it a little bit more. Okay, let's talk about red Thai chili pepper. So if you are interested in this kind of pepper, you basically get this in the Asian markets. I haven't seen this outside of the Asian market. They're really hot. As I said, it's like between 125,000 to 200,000 Scoville units. And I asked Alexa earlier, what it was, and she goes, and it's 15 times hotter than jalapeno. So this is not the sort of thing you chew on. This is actually, you mince it in little pieces. Now I happen to like really hot stuff. And by the way, pepper is capsicum. Capsicum is, a lot of people with arthritis, they use capsicum because it's anti-inflammatory also. So it's nice to incorporate. But if you can't handle this heat, you don't even have to put it in, okay? And I'm just gonna slice this in, well, actually I'm gonna put the camera back to the side, but in just small pieces. So it's just this. I'm gonna mince some garlic. I'll probably just do 1 clove. This was optional, but I just realized, you know what? Garlic is another one that's super healthy. It has allicin. That's the nice phytonutrient. And it's always yummy to put in things. Okay, my spring roll is done, and I want to get it out so that my mind is not thinking about frying. All right, let's get that out. So it's lying, as I said, oops, let's put it this way. So let's see if you can see it here. There, you see how it's just gonna be dripping down? Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's fix our sauce, let's fix the plating, and then that's it. So I'm just mashing my garlic. I happen to like garlic very much. So again, this is gonna be up to you. You could make this just as simple as this soy sauce and lime. And in fact, in one of my classes, which is Get Saucy, where we make 6 different sauces, it's just the soy lime that I make. You don't even do any of the additional ingredients like the chilies or the garlic. Okay, I'm just gonna put this in my little container. And then get that out. So what I was talking about in a different class, I was talking about the phytonutrient of garlic is called allicin, which is a compound, but it has an enzyme, it's allinase, which is heat sensitive. And so you pretty much destroy allicin when you start cooking it. So the way to remedy is because you need the 2 components, which is allinase and allin, to kind of interact, which happens when you crush it, when you slice it, and then that forms the allicin compound. But as I said, if you cook it right away, anything you know, with heat, it's gonna destroy it. But if you leave it for 10 minutes, it's totally fine, even if you cook it. But we're not cooking this, so this is already like, yeah, I just released all the goodness out of that. So that's done. And then my chilies. Oh, what happened to? So I like my chilies just like this. Some people like to remove the seeds because that's where your heat is. I don't. I like mine. I like hot. So, oh, and be careful if you're handling heat. Don't touch your eyes. Okay. And I'll just probably use 2. Okay.
Hey, Marlene, how much fish sauce did you use for the curry?
Oh, that's to taste. So it depends, because a lot of this has to do with the kind of fish sauce you have and also the kind of flavor you like. So do it as to taste. Yeah, whatever suits you. Okay, so this is fine. My lime is here. See? Just because it's ugly doesn't mean it can't be used. So you can always just cut that part. Yeah, people, we throw so much food out because it doesn't look good, but it's totally fine. Now I'm just gonna use a strainer for this. It just makes it easier. You can always fish it out, but, and again, this will become one of those things, it's to taste. So I happen to have the whole lime already here. I might as well just use it. So I'm just gonna adjust the soy sauce based on the amount of lime I already put in. And then this sauce can pretty much just live even in your counter for days and days, or put in the fridge, and then you can use it for all sorts of things. Let's just use the 2 hands. Squeeze. Okay. Boom. Wash my hands. Okay. And soy sauce. Boom, boom. Bye. Okay. And let's check you out. Let's see. I'm running out of. Okay, what more soy sauce? So this one, you're just balancing out for your palate the salty and the tart. So no real formula, but that works. That's fine. Okay, so my sauce is done. We're gonna plate. I'm gonna clear. And so I hope you have rice. Just cleaning up a little bit. Okay. You know what? I'm just gonna put. I love these little mats. Just so easy to just put stuff in. Okay, let's talk a little bit about plating. So the food we just made is pretty much your typical home cooked stuff, which means, you know, served family style, and it's just ordinary. It's not something you would pay $35 for in a fine restaurant unless you plate it. Okay, so there's no reason why we can't elevate something that seems ordinary and make it really artistic, which is why I brought in some of my organic pansies, because they're beautiful, they're edible, and we're gonna work with colors. And I have just a white plate, which means it's like a blank canvas. I am using black rice. So you can use any kind of rice. I'm watching my sugar because it's in my family. Both sides of my family have diabetes, and so I don't really consume that much sugar to begin with, but I have to be extra careful. And your sugars are coming from, aside from sugar, simple carbs, and so white rice is actually really simple carb and high on the glycemic index. So black rice, which actually I prefer, it's a full grain, which means it also takes much longer to cook. It takes an hour versus 20 minutes of white rice. And the general rule is the longer something takes to cook, which is to break down, that means it's also going to be harder for the sugars to get sorry, I just got distracted because my phone, which is my camera, just died. Okay, but anyway, what I was saying was the harder and longer something takes to cook means you have to work harder for the sugar to, actually there's a better way to say, your sugar basically just doesn't go in so fast that your insulin rises. That's what I'm trying to say. When I get distracted, I say strange things. Okay, hold on, I'm just getting this out of the way. All right, okay, so plating. Here we go. I am going to show you the plate. We're gonna bring in our garnishes. I have my cilantro here. I have my flowers, and here's the rice. Let's see. Get the spoon. Okay, it's hot, but not too hot. Oh, and so this is black forbidden rice. It's called forbidden rice because it used to be that only the emperor, or emperor's rice also, because it used to be only the emperor and his family would eat this. No one else could, but now even the plebes can. That's globalization for you. So if you have a nice blank palette like this white plate, you want to use its advantage. You want to create height. You want to create spatial distance. So basically, those are the simple rules of plating. If a cafeteria would just like slop on food and you'll be all over, you don't want that. You want to have a little bit of the space, and as much as possible, build height. We can't really build that much height with this saucy squash, but we will try. But we can with the spring rolls. Now you want a nice paper towel that's a little bit wet so that you can mop up any mess like this. Okay, then I'm gonna put the squash on top, probably at an angle, and I'm gonna get 2 spring rolls because, and I might slice one of them actually. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. At an angle. Ooh. I don't know if you heard a crunch there. There was a crunch. Look, ta-da. It's still steaming, so it's hot. Okay, let's see. Get the ladle. Now the thing about coconut milk, if you like it or love it, you want it on your rice. But it's nice to see the black. You see, I'm making a mess here, but no problem because I have my trusty little paper towel to mop that out. And I can put the spring roll here. I don't want the spring roll to touch the sauce because it'll be soggy, so that's why it's on a different area. Let's see, I'm just experimenting to see what would work. Okay, let's see. Now that needs color. And we will get color, so let's have some cilantro. Cilantro is one of those things that you can eat everything. And even the roots, I harvest roots for Thai cooking because we use it for pastes. But here we go. So some green, it's always nice to have green. And since I have my flowers, which one? Let's use this one. It's a nice big one, but maybe I'll use, it's nice to have choice. Ta-da! Okay, let's do the overhead. I want to show you, I'm going to move this, but let's see. So, I think we need more light. I'll put it actually here. But you can see that this doesn't look like just typical home-cooked food that's like, if you decided you wanted to serve this in a dinner party, it's passable. And suddenly, you know, your $5 dish at the restaurant, this could probably be, you know, like maybe 17, 22 bucks or whatever, right? So that is all she wrote for this. Can I see what you guys have made? I want to see what you guys have cooked.
I don't know if you'll be able to see that.
Hold on. Is it Kevin? Did I hear?
Yes.
Kevin? Okay, I haven't seen. Can you show it again, closer to the camera?
Okay. Here's my
Higher. Yeah,
Higher.
you're just below. Oh, is it possible? What is that? Is it the?
Those are the spring rolls.
Oh, higher then, because I'm only seeing the.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you taken a bite? How does it work?
I did. I already ate one.
And how is it?
It was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me show you my
Squash.
my squash. Here's my
Okay.
squash.
Up, wait, higher. A little bit higher. Ah, there you go. Okay. Okay. I'm only
I
seeing.
just put some shaved scallions on the top.
Perfect. That
And
works.
I'm cooking some rice now, and we're gonna have it over rice.
Oh, perfect. Kevin, wait. One more. Can you just like do your bowl this way, because I could see mostly bowl. Just higher, a little bit higher, the camera. Okay, I just see the yellow, but it looks like it's fine. I do see the
You
scale.
see?
All right, cool. And I see Lenny's too. Lenny, what is that? That's the skinny, what is a skinny? Skinny.
It's skinny noodles.
Oh, skinny noodles. Oh, and so you're serving the, is that the filling that I'm looking at? That's over noodles? So I'm looking at Lenny's thingy. Actually, I'm gonna just spotlight because I want to see what this is. So yeah, I'm seeing skinny noodles, and then, okay. Oh, so you didn't put it in a wrapper. You just put the filling on top of your noodles. So it's an open spring roll. There's a term for that. That's called open spring roll. Okay, cool. Who else? I am seeing, let's see, Sandy.
I did the squash.
Oh, I see Anna's.
Yeah.
Nice. That's, what is on top? What did you use for the?
Oh, it was so they didn't have fresh cilantro, so I got the dried cilantro.
Okay.
So it's cilantro, but it's the dried.
Have you tried it? Have you tasted it yet?
I have, yeah.
Works, right? And it was super easy.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Okay, who else? Did I not? Melissa, go for it.
Whoops. Where is it? Extra song. I don't know
Melissa, it's nice to see you again.
You too.
Yeah.
Didn't have butternut squash, but I used summer squash.
Totally fine. Totally works.
Yeah, it's really good.
Good. And so easy, right? Did you make the spring rolls too?
Yes.
Can I see? And I guess more. Ooh, perfect. Oh, you wrapped it well too. Yeah, excellent. Okay, who have I met? Sandy, I know I haven't seen Sandy's yet.
Well.
Oh, the raw. Okay, I guess, well, it's still a while until dinner for you, right? So. And, oh, that looks gorgeous. Yes. By the way, that's going to taste even better tomorrow, the sauce. Yeah, between the fish sauce and all the umami coming in, that's the day after is good. And again, the spring rolls, if you need to reheat, don't use a microwave oven, reheat in the toaster oven. Jella, I'm seeing, whoa, that looks, I'm gonna spotlight. Oh my God!
Yeah.
The plating. May I make a suggestion with your plating?
Yes, what?
Spring roll wrap, the flap, put it the other way.
Oh, put it the other way?
Yeah, there you go. Gorgeous, gorgeous.
And I had, these are the rest of my spring rolls.
Oh, nice. And I like that you put the cilantro in your soy sauce.
Yeah, I love cilantro.
Yeah.
And I can also use this, right?
Yes, you can.
I'm ready for dinner.
There are many sauces you can use. The easiest one to make is the soy sauce.
The soy sauce, yeah. This is just from a bottle. It's like the sweet and sour.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but yeah, that's a good, like, you have different things happening. Cool. Okay, let's see who else did that. I know Chris cooked. Where is Chris? Is Chris still here? I don't see her, but I know she was cooking earlier.
I saw her earlier.
Yeah. So guys, hey, this is amazing. I love that you all pretty much cook and both, because sometimes, you know, I put in different dishes and it's like whichever one you want to cook, but you like both. So any questions? Anything that or I wrap up? Because oh wait, Sana, hold on. I did not see this. Wait. I knew I was missing people. Sana, can you show it again? Oh wait, I'm not seeing it. What is on the left side?
That fish leftover.
Oh, okay, good. And then you're using summer squash. Excellent. Okay. Have you tasted it yet? Is it good? Hi, Jonathan. That looks good. Yeah. Oh, all right. Very good. Well, guys, thank you again for
thank you
joining another episode of Let's Cook.
Thank you.
So happy dinner. And as
thank
always,
you, Marlene. That was really good.
Oh, great.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you. I hope for those of you who just joined us for the first time, I hope to see you again. We have already a few regulars, and I love seeing you guys. You know, of course, we're all like sheltering in place, so we're not seeing people. So it's really, really nice to be able to see you from wherever you are. So keep safe, keep well. I'm going to send you an email as usual. My usual spiel is, if you're able to donate to Feeding America, great. If not, don't worry about it. But I'm hoping to see you. I'm going to continue the classes probably through June. I may miss the first week of June because I'll be somewhere else. But you'll hopefully see all the notices and like us on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so be well, be safe, happy dinner.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you.